The AAA industry is one of development turmoil and long work hours with no breaks. Two of the games I've talked about more recently, Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy 15, come to mind. KH3 was announced at E3 2013 and was released in January of 2019. The end product is clearly something that went through development hell. Many things in the game are done incredibly poorly, but I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole. If you want to hear more on my thoughts about KH3, check out my video on the topic. Final Fantasy 15 was less of an atrocity, but a lot of the game felt disjointed and felt as if whole sections were taken out of the plot. Yes, a lot of it has most likely been explained in that Kingsglaive movie, but I swear to God, if one more person tells me to watch that movie to understand more of the backstory, I shouldn't have to do that! Put it all in the video game! But why is it that Final Fantasy 15 and Kingdom Hearts 3 turned out this way? Well, there's a multitude of factors, but a lot of it boils down to the game industry today. Gamers nowadays are expecting bigger and better products for around the same price point. If little Bobby wanted Donkey Kong Country back in the day, it was gonna run Bobby's mom like $80. But now we're paying even less for much more technical experiences that take a lot more work to complete. Sprite-based games or 8-bit graphics don't cut it anymore. So now, on top of crafting well-done mechanics, game developers have to worry about where they're going to get the budget and resources to deliver the next Uncharted 4 to a theater near you. Because of all this build-up and hype, game companies need to be able to deliver, otherwise they're not going to get their big juicy check at the end of it all. So, what can they do? Well, they don't have that many options, to be completely honest. They can either create this fake CGI trailer and hype up their game and then fail to deliver, or they can take way too long to develop their game and end up releasing a mediocre product that's met with lukewarm reception for all their trouble and heartache. This isn't to say that the AAA industry can't put out a well-done game every now and then, but with how big these teams are because of the massive amounts of work these games can take, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. Now, this video isn't about why the AAA industry is failing, even though that is an interesting topic, wink wink cough cough, but what industry is less prone to these types of failures? Where the developers don't have to worry about audience expectations and don't have the same mishaps that AAA developers often do. Mishaps like needing to have epic graphics, or wanting to please the general populace, or making sure they're going to get a return on their product that they've spent years on. Well, the answer is the indie industry. The indie industry is a fickle one, to say the least. Plenty of games go into the rabbit hole that is the indie industry, only to get crapped out the other end, mainly due to the fact that there are no guarantees in the There are no guarantees in the indie industry. Tongue twister. It's almost a polar opposite to the AAA industry. In the AAA industry, gamers are guaranteed a level of quality that comes with the game, and developers or investors will most likely get a return on their money. Wait, what's that about Anthem? Yeah. I mean, we don't talk about that one. We don't talk about EA in general. Anyway, all jokes aside, the indie industry can ruin indie developers' lives. They have no idea whether their game will take off or not, but with this trade-off, they're allowed full creative freedom because no one's looking over their shoulder to tell them what they can and can't put in the game. And since they're willing to develop the game with low expectations as to its success, then you can be sure that these developers are going to do their utmost to make a spectacular game with what they have, no matter the cost. With all the odds stacked against indie games' success, and as many that fail, there are some spectacular success stories. Cuphead, as an example, is an indie game that success most recently comes to mind. Cuphead was made by two brothers, Jared and Shed Moldenhauer, who had never made a game ever before. Why does their last name sound like a legendary weapon from like Norse mythology or Skyrim? Anyway, besides the point, it was worked on in their free time as both had full-time jobs up until the point where the game had gained enough traction to where it would be realistic to work on Cuphead full-time. Obviously, its scope had increased at this point, so more people were hired to help them develop Cuphead, creating Studio MDHR. But actually playing Cuphead, you'd think they hired a bunch more staff to help them develop the game, but they gradually recruited around a dozen members to their team. Do you know how many people a dozen is? It's the number of eggs in that carton. In that carton to make this. Cuphead is so well done. The animations do such a good job throwing homage to cartoons like Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes. Cuphead had some very humble beginnings, and I'm sure originally the two had no idea Cuphead would turn into the game we know it as today. The two brothers even had to take a mortgage out of their house to be able to continue the game's development. I mean, imagine if this game flopped. They would have been ruined. The Moldenhauers put their heart and soul into this game. It's easy to tell, and they put a lot on the line to finally get the game into players' hands. But guess what? The game didn't flop. Cuphead has sold over 4 million copies since its release in late 2017. It sold 1 million copies in its first 2 weeks out. Their hard work paid off. And fortunately for us, Cuphead wasn't lost in the rabbit hole that is the indie industry. And it's not just Cuphead. There are plenty of other examples of games that took off. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, hit after hit after hit. Untitled Goose Game, that's literally the name of the game, is just another more recent example. The indie scene truly has taken its place as a heavy hitter alongside the AAA industry, and I dare say can actively compete against it. And I can't wait to see what else the future has in store for indie developers and the indie scene in general. But anyway, that's going to be all for this one, guys. Subscribe or I'll never make another video again. Okay, just kidding. But seriously though, subscribe. Okay, alright.
Also, join my Discord, link in the description if you guys want a heads up on when my next video will be coming out.